So I'm on top of Cedric in this fight. And this was a fight that we were fighting for a title, a middleweight title. And I was exhausted. This was the first round. And in the first few seconds of the first round, I go out and I'm facing Cedric and I throw a kick and he grabs it. And as I go in to do a takedown, he cuffs the back of my head and knees me in the face, and my knees buckle. And I just do anything I can. I reach out and I grab him to keep from falling. And as I get there, we stand up and we throw a couple of exchanges, and somehow I think I rushed in and we got on the ground. So he's on top of me. And I'm bridging and bridging and bridging. And every time I bridge, I don't know this, and I find out later that I'm bridging him and we're rolling outside of the ring, outside of the ring ropes. And people on the side are pushing us back in. This was back in the day, right? So they're pushing us back into the ring, but they're pushing him back on top of me. And I bridged for what seemed like a minute. I was exhausted. So then I finally got on top. And I could hear my corner yelling, "Punch, do something, elbow, do something." And I was so tired. I had never been that tired in my life. And I don't honestly remember the rest of that fight. We did 3 5-minute rounds. That was round 1. First few minutes of the first round. And the next 2 rounds, I really don't remember. They said that was one of the most grueling fights that they had watched. We had stayed up all night. That was the main event, so it was the fight at the end of the night. And I don't remember any of it. And I was in my corner at the end of that fight. And I remember looking over at my buddy Shannon Rich, who was actually the MC as well as he was a promoter for that fight. And he had this look on his face, like he was disappointed, maybe, because we trained together. We were training partners. And maybe it wasn't disappointment. It was just like, man, shit, I got to do this. Because I thought I was going to win. We thought we were going to win. I thought I was going to win, right? So he takes the belt and he goes to the middle of the ring and he goes to the judges, and the judges score the fight. And I'm standing there and I don't even remember much other than the look on Shannon's face when he takes the belt and he walks over to Cedric and he raises his hands in the air and he turns and he hands him this belt. And I remember walking back over, everyone was clapping, all the girls that got in to put the belt around his waist, got there. That feeling that everything I worked for was gone. Like, it was just crushing. And I remember sitting on the edge of the ring, and my dad was there. And he walks over to me, and he's talking to me, and I said, "Dad, not right now." And he said, "Okay." And I got up and I went in the back alley of this club that we're at, and I just sat on the ground and I started crying. And it was the worst feeling in the world. I cried my ass off. I just sat there and I cried, and someone handed me like some Gatorade, and I drank that, and then I threw up all over the place and I cried. And I realized something. I was like, no one cares about your comfort. They just care about that fight. They care about your ability to keep going. They care about your ability to continue to show up. I was so defeated in my mind, but I still had to get up and show my face and walk through that place. Of all the people who cheered for someone else, of all the people who booed, of all the people, I had laid my whole life on the line. And that was the most emotional moment for me, but it taught me something. That was how I had to live my life from now on. I had to show up 100% and fight my ass off and not give up and not quit, no matter whether I was losing, no matter whether I was winning. I had to show up, and I had to put everything I had into every moment in front of the whole world and expose the true character, my true nature, everything about me, for me to feel fulfilled. The world doesn't give a shit about someone who just shows up and doesn't lay it all on the line. If you're going to be a champion, if you're going to be a leader, if you're going to be somebody that does the impossible, whether you win or whether you lose, the world is waiting for someone to show up and be human. That's power. Your power comes from the ability for you to continue to show up, fight after fight, win after loss, and show up and be who you were created to be. You know why? Because people in the audience aren't willing to do that. People in the audience that just watch from the sidelines, that judge and drink and party, yell, scream, and clap at the people who are laying their life on the line, who busted their ass, who worked so hard, aspire to be them. Even if they try to do what we know how to do, or they try to get in the ring and practice being us, they could never do that. You know why? Because it's hard letting everyone see everything about you. The crime, the failing, the winning, the highs, the lows, that extreme version of who you really are. No one gives a shit about how comfortable you are, the look. Everyone cares about the blood, the sweat, the tears, the perseverance, what it takes to hold your head high or to hang your head low, to cry, to expose everything you are as a human being, all of your emotions, all of your failures, to then get up and go back in and say, okay, and give an account of that and own that. That's power. That's being a champion. How do you do that? You show up every day. You embrace that journey to that in-game result. All of the hard work, all of the pain and pressure that you put yourself through to train to be that person. Whether it's in business, whether it's in sports, whether it's being a dad, whether it's an entrepreneur, whether it's being a leader, whether it's being a husband. All of those things require 100% of you to show up and practice and train and forego everything to get to that one place, to lay it all on the line, to not be comfortable anymore, to expose 100% of yourself, to show. And then no matter what the outcome is, to show up again, to expose yourself, to let everybody see the humanity, humility, win or loss, to accept failure, to accept defeat, and to go back to fucking practice, to put in the fucking work again because you believe and eventually you win. You see, after that fight, I showed up in every fight like that. Every underground 8-man tournament, wrestling tournament, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournament, submission wrestling tournament, everything that I did up until that point didn't involve Victor, and then everything after that fight, I knew what it was going to take. I knew that no less than me could ever show up to anything that I did in my business, in my relationships, in my marriage, in my body, in my training. I knew what it took. And I knew that the time that it was time for me to actually get out there and perform in front of other people, no matter what that was, I had to leave all of that on the table to fight like I've never fought before. And when I'm done, to be as humanly exhausted as possible, so as I can be me, I can be emotional, I can expose, I can be the person I'm required to be, towards I can give strength to the people in the audience that watch that, so they can see what it really looks like to lead from the front. Are you doing that? If you aren't doing that, then you're failing everyone, because no one cares about where you're comfortable. No one cares about what you aren't willing to show. They care about your fight, they care about your practice, they care about your training, they care about you being human and laying it all on the table and showing them what courage looks like, not your comfort. That's your job as a champion.